Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday edition of the Community Brew Live. I love Wednesdays. Wednesdays are so fun. We just had an awesome workout with Kate Essex, but that's always why I'm a little late coming in to the brews. So we have a special show for you guys today. I'm not sure if who's kicking this off at this point. Am I throwing it over to Chase?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll get. I'll provide a little bit of context. So obviously this is Teacher Appreciation Week. It's a really important week for us to celebrate the profession, celebrate the work that goes on across our district and across all of our schools, and we want to just really take some time to reflect on the profession of teaching and really think about what it means to be a teacher. And so we've asked the boss man to come on and kind of lead us this morning in some conversations with some teachers across our district. So we have lots of different schools that are represented. And so we're excited to begin that conversation. So without further ado, Mr. Bradley, I'll kick it over to you.
Hey guys, thanks for the invite to the brew, and thank you to our team for joining us this morning. I'm just going to go for a straight romance here, and start out with the question that'll allow you to introduce yourself, and I think get the ball rolling. And the question is, who was that teacher in your life? I know oftentimes there was more than one, but who was that teacher for you that really stands out as you look back on your life today? So if you just introduce yourself and then talk about who that teacher or teachers may have been and what stood out about them.
I'll go first. So I've been in the Nelson County schools my entire life, but the teacher that stands out the most, I'm Amy Hurst, sorry, New Haven School. I've been there 21 years. The teacher that stands out the most to me is Mary Ann White from Nelson County High School. I love Miss White. When you walked into her room, she always had a smile on her face. Like you knew that she was excited about teaching. She couldn't wait to see her students. She made everything so engaging and hands-on, and she just was always a really special and important teacher to me. So, love Mary Ann White.
Yeah, I remember too. So I didn't take Miss White's class because she taught AP chemistry and some other things there in Nelson County, and I wasn't tough enough apparently to take that course. But I do remember everyone talking about Miss White, and she had exceptionally high expectations for her students and for herself.
I'll go next. I'm Jacqueline Spalding. I teach third grade at Cox's Creek. The teacher that really left an impression on me was when I was in fourth grade. She was my science teacher, and she had amazing experiments that we would do. But my favorite thing about her was that I had a friend who was Japanese, and she allowed me to be the mini teacher to that student and kind of help her learn how to speak English. So I kind of basically chose what I was going to do with my life in fourth grade because I was the mini teacher for her.
I'll go next. I'm Amy Rucci. I work at Thomas Nelson High School, my 6th year there. I've been teaching for 16 years now. So I think there's so many teachers, but one that I could really highlight is Manuel Vega. We used to call him Uncle Manny. He was our art director at the high school level, and he was someone who created Toucan Sam, the Fruit Loops bird, and also worked on the Jungle Book. And it was really neat, the original Jungle Book. It was really neat to be able to learn from him and his real world experiences that really inspired me in terms of art.
I'll go next. I'm Abby Smith. I teach 5th grade at Foster Heights. And my reason I'm a teacher is because of Miss Napier. Actually had her in 2nd and 3rd grade. And she just had such a love for all of her kids. She just made it so memorable every single day. I specifically remember she had her husband make us some cursive wood boards, like clipboards that we could write on. I remember bobbing for apples in her class for every party. Unfortunately, she's passed on, but we were fortunate enough to still keep in contact. You know, we sent each other Christmas cards. And so she definitely had a lasting impression on me. And I'm forever grateful for being in her class 2 years in a row.
I'll go. I'm Samantha Kirko. I teach third grade at Bloomfield Elementary. And I wanted to piggyback a little bit on Jacqueline because I'm pretty sure she's talking about Miss Metcalf, who was also my science teacher in fourth grade. And she stands out because she just did so many engaging activities with science that I was always excited to go to her class. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do today? She was so surprising. And she's one of those teachers that I see her to this day and I wave at her and she waves at me and asks me how I'm doing. So it's really cool to still have that connection with her.
Awesome. I was just gonna let ladies go first. This would be nice. But for me, for my teacher, actually, I'm Daniel Newton. I'm from Bloomfield Middle School. It's my first year there. For my teacher, it was Mr. Couture, and what really drew me to him initially was his first name was Bob, but he spelled it Bahb. And so when I saw that, I knew this guy was going to be great. And my fondest memory of him was he was really into Old English and Norwegian culture and stuff like that. And he was actually able to read Old English. And so we were reading through Beowulf, the epic poem, and he read it to us in its original text, its original Old English text. And so when he read that, I just knew that he really enjoyed and loved his subject area and loved it so much that he was able to learn that and to share it with us. And so that really inspired me to become a teacher.
Are we allowed to answer? I want to answer if we're giving teacher shout outs. Can I answer? Is that allowed?
You run the brew.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to answer. I want to give my shout out. My teacher that inspired me the most was Miss Kim Blair Mather at LaRue County High School. I had her several years, and she really, for me, was, and I didn't realize it at the time, but she was really the first sort of renegade type person that I ever experienced in my life. She didn't care. She didn't follow rules. She was also, as it turns out, the first liberal person I ever met in my tiny little rural town. So shout out to Miss Mather. She owns a bakery now in Hodgenville. So love you, Miss Mather.
Brooks making assumptions about her entire today.
No assumptions.
So I'll share a little bit of mine. So, I look back and the different phases of my life. I think probably the first teacher I had that really provoked, Ray Phillips, third grade, Miss Phillips from St. Joe's School in third grade. She was amazing. She just every day brought a sense of joy and love to the classroom and made you feel cared for. Seventh grade, Mr. Zorantanello forced us to really think critically, and it was the first class I could ever go into and really pick books off of a shelf that were really kind of probably ahead of the game. They were, probably more high school, college books. Made me think. Nelson County High School, Rita Williams. You guys may know Rita and Coach Rowe. And I think what Rita brought to the conversation was just a real sense of authenticity. You could banter with her, but she was gonna hold you accountable and had very high expectations. And to this day, when I've talked to Rita in the past 10 years, it's the same conversation. It's like nothing's changed. She's just so relatable. And then in college, I had a professor named Michael Allen Michaelogic that was basically what Daniel described, in that he really took the thinking around literature to a different place and challenged the entire class to think bigger about the work. So I shared four there at all different stages of my life. And now I think it's really, as I look at teachers I've worked with, colleagues, and even teachers that I've worked with as a school principal, I think about even someone like Amy Rucci, who I've worked with here, she's someone that when you go in her classroom, she's going to inspire you and provoke you to think about the work she's doing. So it just continues to evolve. I'm just grateful for all those different forces and phases.
Yeah. So I think mine's similar to Wes, and I think we're gonna do some stuff on Friday to bring this out a little bit more. So I'm gonna save probably the guy that really probably made me largely the leader that I am. But I think one of the cool parts about my story is I got to see so from kindergarten through kindergarten through third grade. My father was my principal from fourth through sixth grade, and then ninth through 12th grade. My mother was my principal. And so I got the privilege of seeing teachers in the house, and I got to see, you know, I would classify it oftentimes as the burden of leadership and what that meant to a community and a school. And so I feel, some people are like, oh my gosh, you had your parents as principal for all those years, but I feel really privileged to be able to have seen that and learned what it meant to lead people, what it meant to inspire people. And then when I went to college, I had a guy, a professor named Dr. Allen, and he was an older gentleman. He was probably around 80 or so when I had him. He was an old Methodist preacher from Chicago, and he was a religious studies professor. And he kind of come in the first day of class, and he had a cane he was walking with, and didn't have like this presence where you just kind of overwhelmed by him. But the first day he kind of walked in class, he said, the first time I ever met Dr. King, we were in a jail cell together in Alabama. And I hope through this class, you see the trajectory that got us there. And really through that class, like more than anything else, it just talked about purpose and why people choose to be on mission. And I think teaching exemplifies that, right? Like you didn't go into teaching for all the accolades and accomplishments. Like it was really about purpose and mission. And so it's really cool stories to hear all you guys come to life. And the chat is kind of blowing up with some really cool um, things as well. Brooke, I don't know if you want to read a couple of
Yeah,
those.
I was just whoops, I just muted myself. I was getting really excited over here to like interrupt to jump in the chat. So you all are getting all kinds of love over here in YouTube land. Nikki Anderson said, "Go Jacqueline, I know her. She gave you a shout out or Haley Victory also gave you a shout out. Says Cox's Creek loves Jacqueline. Let's see. So, Carla McKay, Amy gave you some love. She said our fearless Lafayette Gator House leader. Kathy Walker said she misses you, Amy Rucci. We miss you at BES. Haley, I guess Haley Victory's Marion County girl too. She said, Abby, that she loved Miss Napier too. A huge heart and spirit. Sonia Zelke, she said she loves that these Nelson County students came back to teach in Nelson County. Really cool stuff there. Let's see. Mr. Newton, Alyssa Wilkinson, she said, Mr. Newton is a wonderful teacher. Our 8th grade students and families have loved having him. Mary Newton. Amy Hurst was one of my favorite teachers when I was in school. She taught 4th grade math and science and was a wonderful teacher and now a great friend and coworker. I need my tissues this morning, y'all. So just really, really special stuff happening out there. Let's see here. Kathy Walker, Samantha, no doubt your students will be thanking you. One day you are a fantastic teacher and leader. Love you. That was from Miss Kathy. Fun stuff, you guys.
Yes, as we said repeatedly, this has been a theme throughout the Community Brew now for 30 episodes. If Kathy Walker gives you those accolades, like you just have to take it, and it's the highest form of praise, right?
So the next question, some of you have already spoken to this, but I think you may be able to speak a little bit more deeply about it. Is where was the point when you knew? And this for Jacqueline, she said this was 4th grade, but I think obviously it evolved over time. When was the point you knew, either before or during teaching, when you knew this was the journey you wanted to pursue, and really the way you wanted to invest your life? When if there was a moment, when might that moment have been? That's really the question. So.
I think mine was probably my husband was always involved in coaching youth, and so I would help and be involved in things in the community and working with children in the community, and just being around that atmosphere just really led me to the profession that I'm in because I loved helping kids and working with children.
Mine was really, it wasn't something that I really sought. I had taken a spiritual gifts class at church, and teaching was one of the things, along with all like art and just many different things. And what I have found in my life is that everything is always evolving. And so I've done so many things. And when I had kids, and we had moved to Nelson County, I put them in the Nelson County schools. I was volunteering all the time. And I thought, well, I might as well start subbing if I'm volunteering all the time. And when I went up there, um, oh my goodness, I can't remember the woman. I always give her accolades for this. Linda, I think she just retired. And she said, we need art teachers, and you have a bachelor's degree. Why don't you go for your teaching degree? And I said, well, okay, I'll look into it. And I met a very good friend, and her and I would carpool out to Spalding, and I got my master's in teaching. And that's really where my journey began. Utana Bieber was the teacher that got me started, and Christy Morris. I was subbing in her class, and she said, "You really need to go for your teaching degree." So there's many people that led me to this, and it's been a great journey. And I love being with the kids. So it's been fun. I'm selfish. I like being happy, and it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I really have. It's not just about the kids, it's us too. We really learned.
I'll go. I think for me, I've always kind of known that whatever I do, I want kids involved. It took me a minute to kind of decide that teaching was the path I wanted to take. But I think that when I knew for sure was during my student teaching, which is kind of late in the game, but it just hit me hard when I saw Beth Crow teaching at Cox's Creek during my student teaching. And I said, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. I chose the right path. Like I want to be her because she's a fantastic and amazing teacher.
Mine kind of started really early, in elementary school. You're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer was always, always a teacher. I just developed that passion super young. And obviously, Miss Napier and every single teacher from elementary all the way through college just validated that that's what I needed to do. And all of the experiences that I've gone through, the good and the bad, I don't know what else I'd do. So I love it every single day. I've obviously done like summer camps. I knew I always wanted to be with kids, like everyone else has said. So, like Amy said, I'm happy.
Well, for me, teaching was not my initial plan. I didn't go into college thinking that I would become a teacher through it. It didn't really come into my mind until senior year of college. And the reason it happened was my original plan just did not work out. Something happened, and I won't go into details, but it ended up not working out. And so I had to really think hard and reflect on, okay, well, what can I do now? What do I really want to do with my life? What are my goals? And then how can I apply that into a career? And so through that reflection and then just reaching out to friends and family and some professors, being a teacher entered the conversation, and it seemed like the best route because my ultimate goal was with teaching, even though I love science and super enjoy it, is that I really wanted to be a mentor for young people and students and help them with their difficult questions and what they want to do with their lives and careers and different things like that. And so that's what really led me to become a teacher is that mentorship quality of it.
Jacqueline, you talked about the fourth grade, but was there any time after that when it kind of came a real thing?
Yeah, definitely in fourth grade was when the seed was planted. But then in college, I was able to go to St. Catherine, and they had us in the classroom all the way from the very first semester throughout the whole entire 4 years. So just being in the classroom every week during college really helped me know that that was where I wanted to be.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't something that I knew. I don't think I knew I wanted to be a teacher until the first day of real school. So, Samantha talked about student teaching. Mine was a little different. My path was a little different. Um, I was in Teach for America, so you get placed. I was in a school. I was placed in a middle school in the middle of the Bronx my first year when I was 22, and I was really just kind of observing and learning about the mystery of it all. And then my first day of real teaching started in September of 2003, and I think it was the first class I had. And immediately, I had such a unique group of students, and the first day I was like, "This is really a powerful opportunity." And I don't think I ever questioned it after the first day because the complexity and the challenge and the humanity of it all was something that there was no answer to it. And the mystery of connecting with kids and embracing some of their uniqueness is something that never got old for me and still doesn't. And I think that's why I've never been once been bored. I've never once felt like I was not challenged. And so I guess I took the risk, and day one was, I guess, when I made up my mind. So lucky me that it happened like that. So the last question I want to explore here, I had a few different questions on it. I think without being reflective, I think we'll get to these more reflective questions about what are the implications of the last 9 weeks on teaching and our identity as teaching and the future of teaching. I think that'll come probably sometime over the next couple weeks. Um, but the question I'm just going to explore now is really what would you say to aspiring teachers? Someone that may be curious about the work of teaching. And I don't want to use the word advice. What methods would you share with them about the work and why it's so important or otherwise?
So I think for me, I'll hop in here for just a second. I think like when I knew I was supposed to be teaching, and I think it applies to this question. You go in and you watch like Freedom Writer's Diary, and you've seen Ron Clark, and you've like seen these things, and you're like you have these expectations that like this is what's going to happen, right? And I think like you spoke to this, like it's messy. Like we're dealing with human beings, and we're dealing with situations that none of us, have ever really dealt with at the level that maybe our kids are dealing with. I mean, every day you have more and more. You're dealing. If you're a high school teacher, you may have 150 kids. If you're an elementary teacher, you're getting in tight with these 25 kids. So I think it's the idea that like it's not perfect and it's you're never going to be perfect. But it's like how do you create more and more purpose for those kids and give and help them paint a picture for themselves that's bigger maybe than what they currently see, because that's kind of my story and where I saw it. And I think that was the intention of I taught high school behavior students, and like that was really the goal every day was how do I paint them a picture of a world that's maybe bigger than what they're seeing, and how can we get there together. So I think it's just remembering that like it's no perfect days. It's just trying to create more and more value.
Something that I would probably share with teachers is just that teaching is constantly changing. From over the 21 years, I started with textbooks and overhead projectors, and now we're doing Google Meets. So, you just have to be willing to have kind of that growth mindset and learn and grow and change as the world's changing. And it's one of my favorite parts about it. I love learning new things to use in the classroom.
I think for me, I've had the great fortune to be able to teach all grade levels from, pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And so I know going through all of that, that we are all just humans and really all we want is to feel loved, safe, and heard. So, and I think through this, I've been humbled, meeting many different students, different backgrounds. And I think the idea that we want students to be able to share out and feel like it's okay to be vulnerable. And I think we as leaders need to be able to feel that as well. And when you lose that ability to feel vulnerable, it might be time to move on and find another challenge, at a different school, different leaders, whatever the case may be. So while we expect our students to constantly grow, I think we have to put that upon ourselves in order to be the best for our students.
I think every day is definitely different. I know a lot of people, go by lesson plans, but my lesson plan is my students. My students guide my day, and no one day is going to be the same. So I think that's super rewarding. Just like Amy said, the flexibility and growth mindset, it changes every day, and our kids help do that for us.
I think that I would tell aspiring teachers that this job has as many rewards as it does challenges, and it keeps you on your toes, and it's insanely fun. And the connections that we make with these kids, it just makes everything else I'm doing worthwhile. And I think that that's probably one of the most important things that you can do as a teacher is to make the connections with your kids, because we have to teach them, bottom line. And if we want them to feel like they're able to learn in our rooms, then we have to make that connection with them and show them that we care and show them that we love them and that we are proud of them, and make them feel at home and comfortable in your classroom.
I definitely agree with what Samantha's saying. I think that the relationship building is the biggest piece. If you're wanting to be a teacher, you shouldn't be doing it for any other reason than the kids and making sure that they're growing each and every day.
I think for me, it's something that I may have missed through my teacher education is something that's really important is providing for yourself support systems within your school. Because of many of you said it's very challenging, it's very rewarding, and I agree with both those. But we are um, tasked with pouring ourselves out into these students, and just the toll of building those relationships and teaching them and guiding them can definitely be difficult. And I think something very important is just when you first get to the school, start building relationships with other teachers, building those support systems. So you have someone to reach out to when you're struggling or when you need advice. That's something I definitely missed out on my first 2 or 3 years of teaching. I was a loner and definitely learned my lesson. And when I got to Bloomfield, I was definitely a lot more social, and I got out there, asked questions, and involved. And I think it really helped me along the way to be more positive, and it had a greater impact in the classroom.
So there's lots of complexity in the work we do. So much of it is driven by the heart. One of the quotes that stands out to me that I didn't fully understand until probably my third or fourth year in the classroom is from Parker Palmer's "The Courage to Teach," and the line says, "Great teaching comes from the identity and integrity of the teacher." And I think with me, that to an aspiring teacher means be authentically yourself and really invest in yourself. The more you invest in becoming your whole self, the more your kids will reap from that. And I think the so much in teaching, we can get caught up in giving, giving, giving. And I think we also have to be really giving to ourselves as teachers in order to be able to give and provide an authentic self for others. So I think that's the piece. It's not all about the kids. It's all about really taking care of your own self and identity and investing in yourself in order to invest in them, because they're going to see that, because it'll pour out of you. So that's the thing that stands out to me, and it took me some time to figure that out myself, for sure. And it's still a daily challenge that I think we all face. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of this conversation. It's been um, very, we started with some romance, and we kept it pretty romantic. And I think this has been cathartic for me. Hopefully, it's also been cathartic for you to reflect on some of this as we think about our work and the nature of education. whether we're in distance learning or otherwise. So thank you guys for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for your leadership and the roles that you serve in your classrooms. And we look forward to continuing to deepen these conversations in the weeks and months ahead. And any way that you want to end this conversation, we want to, Brooke?
Yeah, I gotcha. So I want to bring your attention to a couple of things before we close out today. This is our Classroom Leader Love Week. Some of you may know it as Teacher Appreciation Week. And so we're going to continue this celebration and honoring our teachers on Friday. And if you are watching on YouTube, I dropped a couple of links in there for you to share your story that kind of goes along with the theme that we had today. So we've got a video link for you or a Google form link for you, and we're going to be sharing your stories live on the Community Brew on Friday. We have lots of fun stuff planned, so definitely take a second. And if you're watching on Facebook, we've had a large audience on Facebook, so thank you guys for hanging out with us out there. But for our families and community, I also dropped a couple of links in the comment section for you guys over there as well. To share stories, share gratitude, love with teachers that have made an impact on your child, you, our community as a whole. And again, we'll be sharing those on Friday. So tomorrow on our Community Brew Live, we have our Nelson County Cardinals Legacy Core class. So tune in with us tomorrow at 8:30, and we will see you guys then. Chase, did you have anything to add before we close out?
No, you did great.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see you guys tomorrow. Make it an impossible day.
Thank you, guys.